say that you're on your iPad, but if you have the ability to change your name, make sure it identifies you properly so that it makes it easier for us to identify you. Mr. Chairman, it's about 3 after 7. We have 73 participants currently. Would you like to wait another moment or two before we begin? You're muted.
Yes, I would. Let's wait a couple seconds.
Gotcha.
I see P. Scott. I assume that's
Paul Scott?
Yep.
Probably.
Okay.
That is me. Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay. You've now been added as the co-host, Paul. So you can control your mute and unmute, and as well as video.
Pat, tell me when you think.
Well, we're still getting people in, Dick, so I would wait
Okay,
just
let's just
another
wait.
minute or two.
Let's wait.
Yep. 76 so far.
Neil, I'll ask you to just keep an eye on that as we start, since we did have people coming in, frankly, the whole first hour last time.
Yep.
We could ask Mother Goose to rename themselves. That would be great.
Oh, hopefully we'll get 100.
We are up to 81 currently. Well, Dick, we're holding steady at 81, and it is 6 minutes after 7. If you're comfortable, I think we can probably begin. I would make sure Eleanor's ready, and I would say, Mila, if you're prepared to start the recording.
Yep, go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Richard Pomerantz, Chair of Westtown Township's Board of Supervisors. My board colleagues, Carol DeWolf, Vice Chair, and Scott Yaw, Police Commissioner, and I want to welcome you and thank you for being here for this latest conditional use hearing. It goes without saying, but deserves to be acknowledged, that conducting this conditional use hearing in this manner is something that's unusual, our second for this township, and at times it may be awkward. Let there be no doubt that the virtual hearing is neither the preference of the board, nor frankly of the applicant. However, after 8 months of delay and a change to the law, it is the applicant's legal prerogative to put a halt to further delaying the process in the hopes the pandemic improves to permit indoor gatherings. Consequently, we will proceed as best as we can given the circumstances. A couple of other points. At the most recent conditional use hearing, we learned later that there were a number of people who could not get into the proceedings. As I've indicated to those who called or wrote, understandably upset, that was an unforced error on our part. It was not intentional, it was an error of omission. There should have been an allowance for more than 100 attendees. For tonight's meeting and future conditional use hearings, that will not be an issue. We could not be more pleased that so many have an interest in these proceedings, which brings me to a final point. We'd be very pleased if you would also attend tomorrow night's special Oakburn Park public meeting, during which your input will be very much valued. If you're interested, details are on the website. Finally, before turning the proceedings over to Township Solicitor Patrick McKenna, I will lead off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pat, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the continuation of the conditional use hearing for the Toll Brothers Robinson application from August 31st of 2020. I want to let everyone know that the township is recording audio and video of the hearing this evening for the limited purpose of the transcript only, meaning that the recording will not be maintained once the transcript is complete. As with the hearing in August, proceeding tonight will mirror as closely as possible the process for an in-person meeting. Toll will continue with its witness, Nicole Klein, who will discuss traffic issues. All parties and the board will have a chance to ask questions of the witness tonight. You will be recognized and unmuted when your name is called. If you are on the phone and you are a party, hit *9 to raise your hand, and then there's a new step with the program. You have to then hit *6 to unmute yourself. So it's now a two-step process. *6 and *9 if on the phone. Exhibits will be shown on the screen as the witness testifies. They are all also available on the township website under the Planning Commission. If Ms. Klein finishes her testimony tonight, Toll intends to present witnesses to discuss both stormwater and sanitary sewer. If we do not reach their testimony, or if they do not conclude, we have future hearing dates scheduled. They are set for October 22nd at 7 p.m. and November 17th at 7 p.m. Both also expected to be via the Zoom platform. All participants and parties should have the ability to enter your name on the Zoom call this evening. If you have not already done so, please take a moment to do so that we can properly identify you. If for some reason we call your name to ask a question of the witness, but we don't recognize you for whatever reason, please raise your hand and you will be recognized. If for some reason we miss you and we have to come back to you, we will do so. This is a new process with this many parties, so please bear with us. Zoom works very well, but it oftentimes has a delay. As such, I ask that you please wait until the person is done speaking so as not to speak over him or her, and creating confusion, especially for the court reporter. Everything you say is being taken in the notes and transcript this evening, so please speak slowly and loudly, and make sure you are in a quiet location of your home or elsewhere so that you can be heard. As noted in previous hearings, public comment will commence at a future hearing date and at the conclusion of the evidentiary proceedings by the parties. I cannot tell you when that will occur at this point, but it will occur at a future hearing date. So, as a first matter of housekeeping this evening, and a question I forgot to ask the last time, if anyone else besides the township is recording the hearing tonight, would you please raise your hand so that we can identify who is doing the recording and the manner in which it is being recorded? And I would ask Mila to please scan and see if she can find anyone. They have their hand up.
No.
Okay. So we're not hearing from anyone else suggesting that they're recording the hearing. Second, another housekeeping matter. Late last week, the township received a party status request from a township resident by the name of Jennifer Stafford. She resides at 951 South New Street. I believe, Mila, she is already on. I would ask that you please unmute her, please.
Okay. Send an unmute request.
Received.
Ms. Stafford, is that you?
Yes, received. Thank you.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, please just identifying yourself for the record and again your address.
Sure. Jennifer Stafford, 951 South New Street, Westtown, PA.
And you can confirm that you have requested party status in this hearing?
Confirmed.
Okay, did you have party status in the first Crebilly hearing?
No.
Okay, I have to hear from Mr. Edelman on your request. He has the opportunity to ask you questions or for him to raise an objection. So, Mr. Edelman, would you like to give your position on the request, please?
I'd like to first ask a question on the record. Ms. Stafford, how far is your residence located from the subject property?
Less than a half a mile.
Ms. Stafford, did you ask for party status in the prior conditional use hearing?
I did.
And were you granted party status in the prior hearing?
We were not granted party status at that time.
Mr. McKenna, I'd raise a number of objections. One, I believe our prior objection to Ms. Stafford's party status request in the prior application was that her house is actually more than half a mile, based upon Google Earth, from the nearest corner at New Street and West Pleasant Grove Road. But on a procedural matter, I'd object, given that the hearings have been open for a considerable period of time and additional witnesses have already testified. I believe that you had stated and the applicant agreed that no further party status requests would be entertained for this hearing after the closing, I believe, of the second hearing, which occurred months ago. So I'd renew that objection as well, not to allow additional parties to become to have party status in the hearing at this point.
Okay. Mrs. Stafford, anything further from your perspective, from your request?
Not at this time.
Okay. Does the board want to duck out into a breakout session to discuss it real quick, or are you prepared to make a motion or to decide to request at this time?
Carol, your thoughts on it?
Carol, you're on mute, Carol.
Sorry. I think she's close to being a half a mile from the corner of West Pleasant Grove Road and South New Street. I'm like a quarter of a mile. She's less than a quarter of a mile up from where I'm located. So I didn't measure anything, but I think we should allow her, given her reason for being gone and her location. I don't think it's worth saying no at this point.
Scott, your thoughts?
Well, I'm prepared to vote on a motion, whichever way the motion is going to go. I'll just say that in my opinion or my view, I think there are some legal doctrines that probably don't permit us to change a decision that was made during a procedural decision that was made during Crebilly 1.
Pat, are we allowed to ask a question of Greg?
Sure.
Greg, can I ask you a question? Are you aware of the circumstances that have been articulated to the board as to why Ms. Stafford was unable to apply or put her name in earlier for this particular Crebilly 2?
Yes, I am. Mr. McKenna informed me that she was away in Florida for an illness in the family for the last 6 months. But that actually is the period of time in which we had no hearings. So I'm referring to our prior hearings when we were actually in session, I think December and January.
We permitted to ask questions of Jennifer.
Yes.
Jennifer, do you want to just sort of, you've heard the thoughts of the board as well as Mr. Edelman's. Do you want to just, I know you were already asked whether you have anything else to add. I'm going to ask you, do you have anything else to add based on what you've just heard?
Sure. I was Mr. Adelman counsel in December, much into I think it was January 14th. I was overseas in Austria on business, and I was there for approximately a month and a half before I returned. At the time I returned, I was in Westtown for approximately 2 days before I left for Florida to take care of my parents, my elderly parents, both with underlying conditions in Florida. I've attended almost every meeting, sometimes flying back and forth from Florida before this, before the pandemic even, in an effort to stay abreast and to hear what's transpiring for nearly 4 years. I'm a big supporter of, or a big, I'll say, participant and have a lot of passion for the subject, having had a family farm also put in preserved for in perpetuity, and one that Toll Brothers consistently would had an interest in developing. So have a lot of and many other different reasons, family history reasons, to keep to hear what's happening with Crebilly conditional use hearings. My relatives were a big part of George Washington's cadre and support system, and so I have a lot of interest in following the matter, and was not able to attend in person or initial party request meetings.
That said, I hope you don't mind I call you Jennifer. We don't know each other,
Sure.
but you do understand that at the end of the day, it's really up to Toll to decide on this. I mean, it's up to us, but
I
at the end of the day, it's that they can object, and you will still have an opportunity to put forward whatever views you have, as Mr. McKenna explained, at the end of the process, at the end of the hearings during public comment.
I understand, and I appreciate you taking the time to hear my request for all parties. Thank you.
So with that, I'll turn it back to Carol and say, Carol, any thought, do you want to go into a breakout session, or do you want to, having heard both sides, what would you like to do? And then I think we've already, Scott said he's prepared to vote or to take a base of set
Great,
motion.
we haven't heard from you yet. You have been coordinating the conversation, but I don't know how you feel about this. But I do have just one thing,
Yeah.
that there are parties on Dunvegan and Jacqueline which are further than this particular person. So I have a hard time justifying that she's not within a range, just because of others that have been allowed to be parties in Crebilly 1 or 2. So that, I'll go with the general consensus of the board, but I'd like to hear from you, Dick, too.
My view is pretty strong, and it's the following, is that it starts with the distance, as you just mentioned, of others who have been permitted. So it'd be interesting to hear from Mr. Edelman as to why he would have not objected to that, but object to Ms. Stafford's. Having also said that, is that, and now it gets based on personal experience, and in some ways, obviously, it's not directly relevant, but maybe it just touches a point. During the course of the planning commission meetings that when I was chair, I was taking care of my father in Montreal, and I did that for approximately a year. And there were times that I had to fly back and forth just to either take a vote or to ensure that I'd be involved. I have a special place, notwithstanding who the person is, if they're taking care of their parents or family members in such circumstances. So as I said, it's not directly relevant because I understand where it comes into play. I suppose I still don't fully understand Mr. Edelman's objection. Why not? And so, Greg, I'll ask you directly.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, again, the law is pretty clear. When you get past half a mile away from the property, you no longer have an absolute right to become a party. Her property is 0.6 miles away. If you look at Exhibit A0, which is the aerial, you'll see it lands beyond the outer rim for half a mile. We apply that standard in Pennsylvania. We apply that standard here in determining party status for all parties. We applied that standard here in the prior hearing. So our objections remain consistent throughout all of these proceedings. In addition, on a procedural note, we do not believe that we can just simply pick and choose who to allow into the party well after the hearings have begun. To do so would allow the party status numbers to continue to increase, and I don't believe that's within the violation of the applicant's due process rights to continue to allow new parties into a hearing that's already commenced. So you have the two issues. You have one, the distance under Pennsylvania law, and two, the procedural issue, which is something that I had raised previously when parties were allowed to come into these hearings on multiple hearings as opposed to just the first.
And just thoughts, I'll just ask again, based of you, Greg, based on what Carol just said, that there are a number of others who apparently have been granted party status, according to her, who are outside that half-mile range.
I don't know that to be true, Dick. Based upon when each party came into the hearings and requested party status, we used Exhibit A0 as the barometer on where they were located, and A0 had the demarcations, I believe, of a quarter mile and half a mile, and if they located their home within the half-mile radius, we did not object. If they located their home beyond that half-mile radius, we objected.
Well, then understand that, and so therefore, Carol, and for Scott, if you, my view is that based on consistency.
Dick, I'm going to suggest we do a breakout.
Okay, if you like, let's do that. Neil, you want to put us into breakout?
Sure, just give me a second. I have to assign each person separately, so. Pat McKenna as well. Just Pat McKenna and 3 supervisors?
Yes,
Yes, please.
in my view.
Okay.
Eli, I didn't go to the breakout.
Yeah, it says that you haven't joined it for some reason. Hold on, there is a delay. I'll try to do it again. Hold on, please.
Mila, we were only in there for a minute. It would not allow us to stay in there for more than a minute.
No, it's for some reason there is a delay. Breakout room.
Scott wasn't even able to, Scott didn't join us.
Yeah, he should get a notification on the screen. So let's do it again.
Okay.
All right.
Mila, once all the board members are back, let me know. We can begin to go back on the record.
Okay, sure. I'm waiting for 2 more. One more.
Hold on, Ticket's trying to get back in. Do we have Scott in here?
Yes.
I don't see him. Mila, can you look on your people trying to get back on? You might have had to have gotten off and then asked to be back on the Zoom again.
Yeah, we still have 98 people, 99 now.
You have no requests for him to get back on?
Oh, Scott is on.
I'm talking about Dick now.
Let me see. He's on.
Okay. Dick, if you wouldn't mind unmuting just so we can hear you.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go back on the record, Eleanor. So the board has discussed in executive session the request by Ms. Stafford for party status in this hearing. Is there a motion at this time?
So moved. I'm going to make a motion due to procedural issues that this is probably not a best thing at this time. So she will not be admitted at this time.
Second the motion.
All right, any further? Go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
If there's any further discussion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Ms. Stafford, so the board has decided not to grant you party status, but you will obviously have the opportunity to be heard from during the public comment period. So if we wouldn't mind asking her to go back on mute at this point. One final housekeeping matter before we get to the substance of the hearing this evening. Given that we spent roughly 30 minutes on procedural issues, we're going to run the hearing a little past 9 o'clock to make up some time. So we'll probably go to 9:20, closer to 9:30. We'll see where the testimony is at that point. So, Mr. Edelman, turning things over to you. We had Ms. Klein, you had finished her direct, and I believe Ms. Camp finished her cross. Before I go to the other parties, do you have anything further before we start?
No, I do not.
All right, so then, turning down my list, is there anyone here for Neighbors for Crebilly? And do you have any questions? I don't know if Mr. Thompson's here or if either of the board members are there.
We are here.
I am here as well, Mr. McKenna, and I do not have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Moving down my list then, Thornbury Township. Kathy Labrum, do you have any questions for Nicole Klein?
I have just a few. Good evening, Ms. Klein.
Good evening.
You're aware that Thornbury Township is concerned about cut-through traffic using Bridlewood Boulevard and believes that additional traffic calming is necessary for the plan. What has the toll team done to work with Thornbury Township since you authored the meeting notes contained in Exhibit A54 in early February of this year?
So since that time, we have had communications with Thornbury, more related to the intersection of 926 and New Street specifically. But as documented in those meeting minutes, Toll, did express that they would discuss with Thornbury Township as the project moves forward the need for and requests of traffic calming. I believe based on previous discussions between the applicant and Thornbury Township, that it was agreed that Thornbury would pursue what traffic calming improvements they would like, and then there would be something physical to discuss.
If Bridlewood Boulevard were to be a right in, right out at 926, would the intersection of the proposed collector road and 926 qualify for a traffic light warrant?
Yes, the signal is warranted based on the traffic on the Robinson Tract side with the development and the anticipated use of the collector road.
If Broadwood Boulevard were to be closed to all traffic at 926, would that change?
No, it would not.
How many vehicles did your study assume would be using the collector road traveling from Orvis through the site onto Broadwood Boulevard?
So I will pull that study up so that I can answer that question specifically. Our study does account for that movement, given that our study currently reflects that as a full movement intersection. Obviously, if Thornbury chooses to pursue limited movements, that would change, but I will reference what has been included in the study to date, as it is a full movement intersection. So our study evaluates the weekday morning and weekday afternoon peak hours. And so our volumes reflect a 60-minute peak in the morning and a 60-minute peak in the afternoon. So just let me get to the diversion information, but that gives the context for the numbers that I will share.
Ms. Klein, 1 second before you go any further. Between you and Mr. Edelman, can you identify for the record the exhibit you're going to be referring to and then the page? That would be helpful as well.
Nicole, which date of the document will you be looking at? Because I can correspond it to the actual exhibit.
So the May 15th traffic study is the most current.
Okay, so that's exhibit 45D as in David. A45D as in David. You're welcome.
Thank you.
As you can imagine, there is a significant amount of data in this traffic study, so thank you for bearing with me. So the information regarding traffic diversions is within Appendix K of the referenced exhibit. And looking at the diversions across to Bridlewood, which is the movement in question. So the traffic study currently assumes that there would be no traffic diverted to that route during the weekday morning peak hour. What we did to determine the traffic volumes is we evaluated the travel times along the route options, and it is quicker in terms of travel time for traffic to maintain its current route in the morning. In the afternoon, however, when southbound Route 202 is significantly delayed due to the existing traffic, that is when there could be some desire of drivers, and based on the travel times, there could be a shorter route to use the connector road and Bridlewood Boulevard. So we assumed in the weekday afternoon peak hour that 250 vehicles could potentially use the connector road to access Bridlewood Boulevard to